Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Women of Golf Show. I'm Ted Odorico, and joining me is LPGA professional Cindy Miller, and we are your hosts. We're broadcasting live every Tuesday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern here on the blogtalkradio.com network, bringing you some of the best golfers, teacher professionals, and entrepreneurs helping to elevate women's golf. We're so glad you decided to join us this morning, so grab your coffee and let's get started. All right. Thank you again, everybody, for joining Cindy and I this morning here on the Women of Golf Show. We're very excited to have you join us this morning. Good morning, Cindy.
Good morning, Ted. I'm back.
You're That's right. Yeah, you disappeared
I've
for a
left
week.
you in the dust.
That's all right. Listen, it was an interesting week as well. Last week, of course, we had Lauren Coughlin from the Symetra Tour, who didn't win, but she was in a playoff the previous week at the inaugural Sky Golf Championship on the Symetra Tour, and we had a great conversation. And just a quick note for the audience, that those that went that maybe couldn't join us live but went to go after and listen to the show, when it was convenient for you guys, you might have noticed that it wasn't playing properly. So they had an audio issue with the provider, blogtalkradio.com, at the time. But it has since been fixed. So if you missed last week's broadcast, it was definitely a great show. You want to go back into the on-demand section and check that out. So go to blogtalkradio.com and just type in Women of Golf and just scroll down to the on-demand section, and you can listen to that interview. So my apologies for that, but all the bugs have been worked out, and it was a great interview. So I hope you'll go back and listen to that. And we got a great show, Cindy, this morning. We're going to have the winner of the Florida's Natural Charity Classic. Kelly Tan is going to be joining us here in just a moment. And then a little bit later on, we're going to be joined by Marvol Barnard, who is the national president of the LPGA Teaching and Club Professionals. She's going to be joining us on the second half. But very quickly, before we bring Kelly out on the show, you were off last week. What were you doing last week?
Boot camp in Orlando with grown-ups.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize. I thought you didn't have another one until
bleeding.
April. I didn't.
No, I've got February, March, and April. You got to find a way to get out of Buffalo, Ted.
Yeah. Move to Florida. That's what you need to do. That's what you and Alan need to do.
But I like it here. I just don't want to be here all the time in the winter.
Yeah. I hear you. Being a northerner myself, I know exactly what it was like, and I had my fair share over the years. But anyways, we got a great show. Let me just, Cindy, tell a little bit about Kelly, and then we'll bring her on the show, and then we'll talk about her win and some other things. As I mentioned, we've got the winner from this past weekend's Symetra Tour's Florida's Natural Charity Classic, Kelly Tan, and she's 25, a native from Malaysia. She's a three-time winner of the Malaysian Ladies Open as an amateur. She was also a two-time champion on the Professional Golf of Malaysia Tour, or PGM Tour for short. She finished tied 13th at the final stage of the 2013 LPGA qualifying tournament to earn priority list Category 12 membership for the 2014 LPGA Tour season. She turned pro immediately after completing that event, and also represented her native country at the 2016 Summer Olympic Games and finished a solo 51st. So let's welcome the winner of last week's Florida's Natural Charity Classic on the Symetra Tour, Kelly Tan.
Good morning.
Hey, guys. Good morning. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Well,
we are thrilled.
We appreciate. Yeah, we're very, very excited to have you on it. And from both Cindy and I, congratulations, of course, on the win. I know that's very exciting for you, and we appreciate you, as you mentioned off air, that you're out in Phoenix right now, so you're up really, really early, even earlier than we are. So we appreciate you taking the time to come and join us this morning.
Yeah, no problem, because I think my body is still on Orlando time zone, so it's all good.
Oh, that's good. And one other thing I want to just mention, Cindy, then we'll get started. Kelly was in a sudden death playoff against Demi Runas, who is, I believe, from California. and they were both tied at 13 under par, and then they went into sudden death. And of course, obviously, Kelly was the ultimate winner of the event. And I'm just going to start off, Cindy, if you don't mind, and then I'll bounce it over to you. Obviously, again, Kelly, congratulations on the win, and no less in a sudden death playoff, which is always exciting. And that's actually 2 weeks in a row for the Symetra Tour. Their inaugural event, as I mentioned, the previous week, the Sky Golf Championship, it went to sudden death as well, and it was decided in a playoff. And then right back to back, you won it in the playoff as well. So tell us about a little bit about your final round and your matchup against Demi.
Yeah, no, it's the first time as a professional I get to play in a final group, and just coming into the week, I feel really good, even though I didn't play too well in the Sky Golf Championship. But I took a lot of positives and bring it with me onto last week for the Florida Natural Classic, and just found a little something in myself to get my confidence up. And, I had a really good week. Just going on to final day, I know that it's going to be tight because, there's a lot of girls, within 1 or 2 shots just behind me.
Right.
But just keep telling myself to give myself chances and, just try to not think about wanting to win instead of, just do my best and see where I can put myself. And I'm glad everything worked out in the end.
Right. And yeah, because I know you had your previous season, you didn't play as well, and obviously that can be, a little bit of, I guess a downer for lack of better words, and so you wanted to come out obviously with this season, and as you just mentioned, in the Sky Golf you didn't play, maybe at your best, so that, to start the season kind of put you in a little bit of a different mindset as well, but then you bounced right back this past week and ended up winning the tournament in sudden death. So, that obviously is going to change the momentum for the season. So let me ask you real quick, and then Cindy, I'm going to bounce it over to you, as I said. When you're coming off a season like last season where, you just didn't feel like everything was firing all at the same time, what do you do in the off season, if you will? I know you guys don't have a lot of off season anymore because the tournaments pretty much run all year round. But in your off season time, what do you do to both physically and mentally prepare for the new season?
For me, I didn't go for 2 months. I decided to, not touch my clubs for 2 months. I did not unpack my club when I flew back to Malaysia, and just, visit with friends and family, and just really take some time off because, I played on LPGA for 4 years, and, we have pretty long seasons, and it was hard for me for, coming from Malaysia and not be able to see my family, for, a long, long time. And it's just, I think everything happens for a reason, and it was great that I was able to spend a lot of time with my friends and family at home last season. And just, I worked out with my fitness coach, Rich, a lot. Like, we really worked hard on, just getting stronger. And, it's hard when you're coming off in a, it was a bad year. There is no other word I could describe it, but it wasn't a great year. So it was hard to be motivated and, wanting to work harder to get better. Just, but I'm so grateful with, the people around me, my team, my coach, my fitness coach, my, manager and families and friends that, have never doubted me, have been by my side the whole entire time, even though, last year was a really, really hard year for me to, take it with me and just, when you have a hard year, it's hard to find positives. I'm just really grateful for my team, to be able to be by my side, and, just that really helped me, wanting to work harder and be motivated. And I'm glad, I never gave up. And, yeah, here I am.
Well, we're glad you didn't give up either. Hard. We're very excited to have you.
Sorry to be a little emotional.
No, I think that's fantastic. We like some emotion here. Cindy, go ahead.
So I'm going to keep going on that because, again, I believe you're right. We go through things for a reason. And I'm very proud of you for just putting your clubs down. I believe that sometimes when we play golf, we almost believe that we are what we shoot, and our self-image is controlled by how we do. So I played on the LPGA tour for a few years, and I ended up losing my card, and I would come home. I mean, maybe it was good that you couldn't go home every week, because I would come home and they go, oh, well, you missed the cut. What's wrong? Why do you keep playing so bad? You play good this day, and then you play, and it's like, you know what? I really don't want to hear it, because I'm not trying to play bad. So you're very fortunate that you had a really good team behind you that believed in you, but there's so much self-doubt. So, and I think our listeners don't realize how hard playing competitive professional golf is. They only see the highs. They don't see the lows.
Yeah.
So what would you tell them how you dealt with really maybe not even believing that you're doing the right thing, that maybe you shouldn't even play golf? How did you get out of that?
Just like, I played on the LPGA again for 4 years. For having a bad year and lost my card, that hit me so hard. Like it almost pushed me off a building. I don't even know how to describe that feeling. It was really, really hard, and I believe the only reason why I didn't do well last year, it was because of that. Like it was hard for me to stand back up and be like, hey, I belong there. I can work harder. I will get back. It was really, really hard. But, again, never once my team doubted me. They, even my parents, even when I had my bad weeks, they never, ever said, why did you play bad? Like, why? Like, how can you be so good and today you don't do? Like, they understand that, it's golf. It's
right.
And not every day is going to be perfect, So I'm super grateful that my parents are not very, very pushy of my career. They have been super supportive. I can't ask for better parents to be, to have, I've seen a lot of parents out here where they're with their kids, every single week, which, my mom and dad are not like that. They come over once a year. As I have 4 other siblings, they can afford to spend every single day with me, and thank goodness for that. But just with my coach, Gary Gilchrist, I've worked with Gary for 2.5 years now. I went to him when I was almost losing my LPGA card, but again, he's never doubted me. He's always told me that I've got the game, I've got the swing. I just need a little confidence, and I'll be the exact same player, but more confidence, and you're going to win tournaments. And I thought he was just saying because he's a coach. So, but for some reason, I keep trusting that and, working hard with him and just also believing in myself. I think it was the number one thing. It was hard, but just work hard, guys. Like, it's not easy. Nothing is going to come easy, but good thing is going to happen if you keep working. It might not happen tomorrow, but it's going to come down to, maybe a year or two, or, who knows. Just keep at it and keep giving yourself chances, and, it's going to happen. That's all I can tell from my experience.
So let me ask you this. When you reflect back on your game and maybe why you lost your card, do you look at the stats? Because there's such a fine line between playing really well and losing your card. My husband and I happen to be the only married couple in the world that have played on all 4 major tours. So my hubby's played the Masters 5 times.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, and so I can tell you that if he had made 1 putt more per round, we would be multimillionaires.
Yeah.
So it comes down
well, I've
to
done
maybe
that
one
stats with
shot.
my coach as
Pardon
well.
me?
I've done that stats with my coach as well. Obviously, putting is going to save, a lot of, what has happened the last few years, but I still believe that everything comes down to your confidence. Like, if your confidence is low, I mean, gosh, it's hard to play the game. It's so much of a mind game that you cannot let, your mind take over. You almost have to be a lot stronger than what you are and beat those thoughts. And I think, a lot of the times when you miss the little 3-footer, it's all because of doubting. So if you have, for me, is I try to, do drills that makes me confident instead of, I don't know, hit 100 putts within 10 feet with, not missing one. And that gives me confidence, knowing that I've done it 100 times and this shouldn't be a problem, stuff like that. Just, do a little something. If today I go out and, didn't pitch very well in the par 5 because I don't hit it very long. So par 5, I always try to score. So if I don't pitch very well that day, it's hard for me to score for the day. So I'll come back and try to hit, set up cones out there and hit, 50, 60, 70, 80 yarders. And until I know I can hit the number, that gives me confidence, and it's a different ball game the next day.
Awesome.
That's my point of view.
Very interesting. Cindy, I know we've talked about this before, that and not just players, but obviously a lot of the amateurs, that there comes a point where they develop a paralysis by analysis. And I think that's really what you're trying to say, is it's good to be conscious of the numbers, and obviously that information can be valuable, Kelly, as a player. But sometimes if we get too steeped into those figures and the numbers and dwell on it, then it gets to a point where you're starting to count every stroke as you go around the golf course instead of actually playing the game. And that, or your scoreboard watching and so on and so forth. Let me ask you, Kelly, I want to sort of bounce off what Cindy was just talking about. When you're not playing your best, there's other factors involved. I mean, obviously you're going to go out there and one day you're going to play fantastic, and the next day maybe you're not going to play so much. One of the other things that I think a lot of people, and I'm referring to the amateurs, don't appreciate. They see, as Cindy said, all the highs on TV when they see the professionals playing. They don't see the lows. But the other thing that they don't appreciate is you guys do a lot of traveling throughout the year. So exhaustion comes into it. I mean, here you are, you're on our radio show this morning. You're an hour or so behind us. So you're up bright and early. You probably got things that you've got to do for the next event, and you're doing, radio spots and things like that. So there's other factors involved. So what do you do throughout the season to help keep those energy levels up? I mean, do you work out? Do you, get in some sort of fitness regime? And then what about diet, as far as nutritional things? What do you do to make sure that you're being properly fueled to give you that energy to sustain your rounds?
Yeah. I mean, for us on the Symetra tour, there's a lot of traveling, and there's a lot of driving. I mean, 10 to 12 hours driving, but, to this event, I flew here. But me and my fitness coach, Rich, we try to set up programs for me every week, doing, even if it's a 3-day event or 4-day event, it depends on, how busy I am. Sometimes you have to play pro-ams and interviews. So I try to work out 2 to 3 times a week if I can, if not at least twice a week. And my workouts are not, running 5Ks or stuff like that, but it's more like activation, making sure that I'm, mobility, I have the range of mobility and, stuff like that, nothing crazy, like a good 45 to 50 minutes in the gym. And when it comes down to nutrition, I believe that I don't eat very well. Like, I don't eat bad, but I still love my, ice creams and dessert. So I don't go too much over the line of, like what I can and can't eat. But when I'm on a golf course, of course, I won't sugar load myself. I will have, peanuts or bananas or PBJ in my bags. I always have food in my bag. So that's one thing that's very good with me. So just try to eat well and, make sure I'm hydrated on the golf course to keep myself at, the best concentration level as I can.
Yeah, that's some great advice for our amateurs out there listening. One of the biggest mistakes we see with a lot of them, especially I'm going to throw the men out under the bus, if you will. But, a lot of men go to the golf course. They don't, necessarily have a good breakfast to start the day off. They're out there playing 18 holes. and they're right by about the third hole. They're looking for the girl, the cart girl, looking for a beer or something like that, and and then they're maybe chewing on a Snickers bar or something, and then when they hit the turn, they're shoveling down a chili dog or and maybe a couple of more beers, and then they wonder why they feel lethargic by the time they get to about the 15th hole. They're not fueling themselves, and I know it's about having fun, and we're not trying to take away from anybody's fun. But you have to put things in perspective, right, Cindy? I mean, if you're going to go out there and you want to, not necessarily play competitively as Kelly's doing, but you want to go out and play your best golf, you got to be smart about it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just that's just something that that you've got to really focus on. I just want to ask one more, and then Cindy, I'll let you wrap things up here, but. We mentioned in the beginning too that obviously you got out on the LPGA tour for a little while, and obviously lost your card. This win obviously is going to help build back towards getting your card. What do you forecast for the season? What's your vision for this season?
Yeah, so I'll be playing on the Symetra tour and maybe try a couple Mondays or two because I still have Class A veteran status on the LPGA tour, so that's pretty honored to have that this year. So next week I'll be heading to Beaumont, California to play the Morongo Symetra Tour Classic, and then we have Windsor in San Francisco, and then I have a 2 weeks off. So I'll be playing a lot out on the Symetra tour to try to keep my ranking up, and yeah, that's the plan so far. Things changes a lot in my life, so that's as far as I can plan.
Right. Well, and that's good, that you've got an idea, and you've got you have to have goals as well while you're out there. It's not just about obviously you have to focus on the event at hand. I mean, if you're in a event or something this week, and obviously last week you have to focus, but at the same time you got to have some, in addition to some short term, you got to have some long term goals as well to keep yourself focused throughout the season. So that's some great advice.
Yeah.
Cindy, we only got a few more minutes before we have to let Kelly go. Any final thoughts or questions?
Let's talk about the fact that you don't hit it that far, but you must be pretty straight because I, like you, don't hit it very far. So we have to have a better short game.
Yes.
How do you, I'm proud of you. Not everybody gets to hit it 275, 280. I've tried to buy yardage everywhere. So what do you do to help yourself, just be the best player you possibly can be?
Yeah, I mean, I got to play with Laura Wen a couple of days ago in the final group. I mean, she bombs the drive. I'm not kidding. 300 yards. She flies my drive. 50 yards every single hole. Just watching that, it was so hard. She's one of the longest hitter on the Symetra tour, but it's hard when you play with a long hitter like that. But a lot, I just kept telling myself, I just got to play my own game. Like, I know I could do it, and knowing yourself, it's the biggest thing, and just knowing that I can get up and down from everywhere. And, me and my coach, we work very, very hard, knowing that, a lot of the par fives I can't reach into, but just, worked on those pitches that I know if I step over that pitch, it's going to be, within a 6 to 10 foot radius and make the putt. But we worked very, very hard on chipping as well. So with Gary, he has this short game area in his academy that we go around, the green, and he set up, stations. And there are some holes I have to, I don't know if in the academy we have those tube balls, and I believe in one tube they have maybe 15 or 18 balls. So we always try to finish the drill with one tube, and he always tell me when it comes down to the last 5 or 6 balls, if I need to chip one in, it's like, well, you got it if you make it this time. So he always pushed me to the limit to try to chip it in and finish the drills and stuff like that. And I think that helps me a lot, just knowing that I can do it, and I've done it so many times with my coach. And when you're out on the course, just pick the right shot and and do it. So that's how I go about it.
Awesome.
Very good. Well, Kelly, we want to thank you for getting up a little extra early this morning and joining us on the Women of Golf Show. We appreciate you taking the time. And again, on behalf of Cindy and I, congratulations on your win last week of the Florida's Natural Charity Classic. We know that that's going to help propel you for the season, and we wish you the best of luck for the rest of the season, and go get that LPGA card.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. It's a pleasure to be on
Thank
the show
you.
with you guys. Thank you so much.
Good luck.
All right.
honey.
You
Don't give up.
Yeah, you have a good one.
Thank
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you. You guys too. Bye.
All right, that was our first guest this morning, Kelly Tan, the winner, as I said, of last week's Symetra Tour's Florida's Natural Charity Classic. Very, very focused young lady, and I like her answer. You know, she knows she can't, Cindy, she knows she can't bomb it out there with some of the other big hitters, but she plays her own game, which is extremely important. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? It's a breath of fresh air, to be honest with you, because so many of them hit it so far. So,
yeah.
For her to realize, this is the strength of my game is to hit it straight. I have to have a great short game. It doesn't matter how far I hit it. I'm going to save this recording, and I'm going to play it. We've got a young girl that we teach now who's a senior in college who just finished second at a college event, and I am going to make her listen to this because she's trying to hit it farther. And straight is far. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, if you're hitting it, 235, 240, even 250 straight as opposed to 300 all over the place, I think I'd take the 250 straight any day. And it brings up a really interesting point, Cindy, because a lot of I'm sure a lot of these other players out there that when they're coming up against and they're paired with somebody who is bombing out there, sometimes just subconsciously they're sitting there, okay, I've got to really step up my game, and then it throws them off their rhythm because they're trying to do something that they're not able to do. Now, obviously, you can work on things, when you're with your coach and stuff like that to try and get some distance. But if you're not a big hitter, don't try to force something that's not going to happen, because ultimately other areas of your game that you could be focusing on to make up for that shortage are going to be, a much better, thing to pay attention to. And I think that this is something that, our amateurs can learn from as well. Just because your playing buddies are beating it out there a mile and you're not, focus on other areas of your game. Your putting, for instance, and your chipping, as, she mentioned, if she's not chipping or pitching it well, then she's not scoring on those par fives because she knows she can't get there on two. So some great advice for a lot of our amateurs listening. Well, I enjoyed having her on. We'll hopefully she'll win again and we'll have her back. But anyways, all right. So we got our other guest, and I'm hoping I'm pronouncing this correct, and I'm asking her to correct me when she comes on. But our next guest this morning is Marvol Barnard. She is the national president of the LPGA Teaching and Club Professionals. She is also the recipient of the 2018 PGA National Player Development Award for her innovative and tireless efforts in bringing people to the game of golf and keeping them in the game, which of course is the big part of it. Her many awards include being named LPGA National Teacher of the Year, LPGA Top 50 Best Teachers, and Golf Digest 50 Best Women's Teachers, and also the recipient of the LPGA's Nancy Lopez Golf Achievement Award. So, and splits her times, Cindy, between the Haven Golf Course in Green Valley, Arizona, and the club at Las Campanas in Santa Fe, New Mexico. So let's welcome our very special guest, Marvol Barnard.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys?
We're doing great. You
doing fantastic.
I did. I didn't realize how early I was going to have to get up when when you asked me. No, it's okay. I always
you want to go back to sleep and we'll call you next week?
No, I'm loving what I'm hearing. That was an interesting conversation. I didn't hear all of it, but I like the end, the play your own game. I really think that can be a metaphor for life. I think that's a really powerful message.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you. Yeah. I, Cindy and I, we've talked about this many, many times, over the years on our broadcast about really playing your own game. And Cindy, you just got back from your boot camp down in Orlando, And, that's really, in addition to obviously teaching them various skills that they're going to use out in the golf course, you're really teaching them that very point about sticking to your own game and not worrying about your opponent and how they're playing, worry about how you're playing. And I think that's some sound advice. Cindy, I'm going to just start really quickly with our guest here, and then you can take over. So Marvol, I wanted to ask you, and first off, am I pronouncing it correctly? Is it Marvol?
Yes, you pronounced both, Marvol
Okay.
Barnard.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Okay, so I wanted to ask you, as I mentioned, you were elected the national president of the LPGA Teaching and Club Professionals, which is obviously a great honor. And I wanted to ask you, obviously you've been a member of the LPGA for a long, long time, and you're teaching professional as well, and doing a lot of other different things to help grow the game. What is your vision for the LPGA T&CP? What is your long term? What are you looking at as you take over that national leadership, if you will? What is your vision for the LPGA?
That's such a good question. For me, it's engagement, and it's that all of our professionals have the tools they need to be successful, and that everyone is engaged in whatever fashion they need to be successful in the industry and in our organization. One of the things we struggle with in the LPGA is that we're so spread out. We have across the U.S., we have 5 sections, and some of the sections, the section I'm in has 12 states, and so it's very difficult to get people, like the PGA section that I'm in, we have 1,200 members, and it's very condensed here in Arizona and Southern Nevada. Mm-hmm. So when you have an event, you get a lot of people can come. And in the LPGA, the travel and the expense of getting together is kind of a barrier. So we're coming up, Cindy is part of a committee that the Continuing Education Committee, where we are trying to find innovative ways to engage our members and get them involved, because as soon as you're engaged and involved, it makes the entire organization healthy. So that's my overriding goal.
Well said. Yeah, I think that's fantastic. Cindy, what are your thoughts there? I mean, what do you see? Obviously, you travel a lot, and you obviously have been part of the LPGA for many, many years. What do you see as, in conjunction to what Marvol just talked about, as a barrier that needs to sort of be worked through and to help the organization as a whole?
I believe that we needed this breath of fresh air in our organization, and Marvol's got some great ideas. You can tell that she's really dedicated some time thinking about what can help us learn and grow and come together as a group. And I believe she's implementing some great policies and procedures within the organization to help us do just that, and I'm thrilled to be a part of it because I think she's right on the right path.
Well,
sounds
and then
good.
the other thing we always tend, I think, I don't know if we do or if others do, but there's the PGA is out there, and again, as a member of both organizations, I love both. I wouldn't change my membership ever, but it's back to what you guys were talking about with your last caller, that you have to play your own game. So we can't be the PGA. We're the LPGA, and we, I always think about the boutique hotels versus the big hotels, and that's what we are. We are what we offer. Our teaching of our teachers is second to none. I just went to a training seminar, got to sit in on the level 2 seminar. And it's just outstanding teaching, and it engages our members, and it ignites their passion for learning and for teaching. And I just think we have, I just can't wait. We're just getting started on some stuff, and we've got more things in the hopper, and it's a very exciting time.
Wow, very, very interesting. Cindy, go ahead, and I know you've got some questions as well.
So are you going to be at the Founders Cup?
I am. Boy, am I.
Tell us about what your week's going to be filled with.
Okay, so I am so excited about this week. I feel like a kid waiting for Christmas. So on Wednesday, I'll drive up. I get to be there for the announcement of our new campaign called Drive On. And Cindy, I know you were there at the show when Roberta Bowman's new initiative was rolled out. Mike Wan gave us a little sneak preview of that. So that's happening Wednesday morning. And then Thursday is a board meeting all day, and then Friday just some a meeting with some different people. We're doing some video work up there, and I get to drive Marilyn Smith around. She's one of our founding members, and so she and I will get to spend some time together, and I just love her. She's just such a great lady, and so that'll be fun. And Friday night is a dinner. Saturday I race home and get prepared to take 2 busloads of my students up to watch the final day on Sunday. And that was a fun thing. I kind of thought it'd be fun to see if I could get some people to go up, and I called a bus line and got a price. And then I put out an email just wondering, if anybody would be interested. And in about 2 hours, I had so much interest that I filled 2 buses and had to shut it off because I can only herd so many cats. And so we're going up Sunday, and that's going to be really fun. So it's a great week ahead.
Fantastic. That's great.
Wow.
I know.
That's fantastic. Cindy, go ahead.
So what's the number one thing you want to accomplish in your first term?
I just the other day I was going back through meeting minutes when I was on the board before, and there's so many things that we have talked about over the years, and everything sounds good, and we kind of get started a little, and then things just don't really come to fruition like I would like to see. And I'm a real, I'm a person that likes to get things done. And so that's what I'd like to do. I'd like to pick about 3 things and just get them done. I think that's success for us. And Cindy, I love what you do. I follow you on Instagram and on LinkedIn, and I think both of us believe really strongly in marketing and marketing effectively. And that's what I want to do. I want to make sure that our members are getting our information in a way that ignites their passion to work for their organization. And I want the industry to see what we're doing. And I feel like we've got some work to do in that regard, but that's a big passion.
Awesome. Ted, go ahead.
Marvol, that brings up a very interesting point, and you're exactly right. Kudos to you, Cindy, for all the great work that you do to promote the LPGA brand, and not just from the playing side, but also from the teaching side as well. And that really raises an interesting point, Marvol. And one of the questions I want to ask you is, what do you think that the LPGA organization can do to motivate more girls into becoming great teachers like yourself and Cindy? And what really needs to happen? And I think one of the things that you touch on that I'm going to let you talk, but is the marketing aspect. When we think of golf, as consumers, we think of the great players that are out there, both past and present, but we don't really hear a lot about the teaching side when we see it, in the general media. And I would really like to see a more effective campaign in recruiting some of these young girls, because they're not all going to make it out on the LPGA Tour or the Legends Tour at some point down the road. And you need more great teachers out there inspiring and encouraging other young women to take up the game, not just to play, but to actually get involved in teaching. So what are your thoughts there, and what do you see happening from a marketing perspective, and also in other areas to really move that agenda forward to get more young ladies in the teaching side of the game?
That's another really good question, and I just looked at the clock to see how much time we have here, because this is a major topic. So of mine. Speaking of the Symetra Tour, so at this training seminar that I just went to, it's our level 2 education. As people introduced themselves, I noticed a few of them were either current or have just come off the Symetra Tour, and over the years, I was on our board for 6 years. This was a vexing problem. That how do we get that word out to the players, and it's a sensitive subject. You don't want to go up to someone and say, hey, you're probably not going to make it here, so why don't you think about teaching? You just can't approach it that way. So we had not found a way to approach it. So these two young ladies, I made an announcement and I said, any of you who've played on the Symetra Tour, would you please come see me at lunch? And so two young ladies came over, and the questions that I asked them were, how did you find out about the teaching side of it in the first place? How can we better support that connection? How can we make a connection with the Symetra Tour? And what advice would you give me to help make that happen? And they had some great, just great ideas standing there at lunch. So what we've done in the Teaching and Club Professionals, a few years ago, I started a new member committee, and I put these two ladies on this new member committee with a subcommittee of Symetra. So what they're going to do is assist us in creating a pathway for the Symetra Tour players. And, that's an obvious pipeline right there. The other thing I think of is these gals that have come through the girls golf programs. They're starting to get to the age where they could join the organization, and I think they've got a really they've had such a great connection with us and a great introduction to the teaching division. So that's a possibility. Another venue that we're looking at, another avenue, are the college players, and how can we make inroads there? And that's another situation where we know it's out there. We know there's a possibility, and we just haven't been able to really bring it to fruition. And then finally, the PGA, women of the PGA, we're getting a really great percentage of them are joining the T&CP, and I'm actually in charge of that side of it, that I'm offering assistance and coaching and whatever they need to become members of our organization. We allow them to come in as a level 3 already. They take their level 3 testing and get to skip the first 2 parts, because as PGA members, they've already had that education. So that is a huge, huge, huge push, and I already am seeing some movement there, so pretty exciting.
Fantastic. And you raised some really great points. I think, and Cindy, again, this is something, we've talked about a lot of different things on this program over the years that since we've been doing it. And, one of the other things is really from an educational standpoint. Obviously the LPGA and its various branches, if you will, do a fantastic job once you get them in there. But there's really nothing in the general population that exposes people to golf other than, like I said, what we see on TV. I would really like to see maybe a better partnership with the golf industry, with the school system somehow. And I know it's a difficult thing. It can be costly, but I think with corporate partners and things like that, and I think that maybe, somehow offering it, a better exposure through the school systems to golf in general, so that people are aware of that. Because by the time, unless they're raised and born and bred to play golf from a very early age, most people don't really get a lot of exposure until much later in life. And by that time, they've already picked up other interests, whether it be other sports or other activities, and it's harder to really get that spark, if you will. So I would like to see it at a much earlier age. And I know there's a lot of great junior girl programs and junior golf programs, but they all tend to be more on the playing side. I would like to see something, more on the teaching side and the development of becoming a great golf professional, not just playing, but also teaching. What do you think about something like that, Marvol?
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea. I've not thought of that purely from the side of teaching or developing from the school age. I think that's an interesting possibility there. And when, again, back to play your own game, I didn't start golfing myself till I was almost 40. And so I'm an example of someone who didn't come up the traditional way, and I think that message can be out there too, that you don't have to be a 300 hitter to be a great teacher.
Right.
I think that's the message too that has to get out there, that it's for everybody, and I do like the thought. We've got 80,000 girls now involved in the LPGA USGA girls golf program, and again, I think that's going to be such a pipeline for many different things, for teaching, for the tour side. We've got several tour players that came up through that path, and so I think there's some possibilities there.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Cindy, go ahead.
So you have won the Player Development Award for the PGA, and I just smile every time I see anything that you post. I know that you care, and I love your passion. So tell us, number one, what makes a really great professional, or a teaching professional, I guess I should say, and what do you do differently that makes everyone want to hang out with you? Because that's the truth.
That is very nice for you to say. And Cindy, the same could be said for you. You know, I see, when I look at passionate teachers and I look at what people post and what they're doing, I think that it's about imagination. It's about caring deeply for your students. I'm sure you do the same. I wake up in the middle of the night thinking about, you know, Mr. Smith and his slice, you know, and what we can do better. And you know, I like to have fun. It's like this bus trip. You know, I'd love to take a bus trip to Phoenix, so I created a bus trip to Phoenix. So I think it's just a combination of, you know, you want your students to love the game as much as you do, and you want them to be engaged and have a great time. There's nothing I love better than a good laugh, and so I like to keep my classes funny and fun, and I make up funny names for the classes. And, you know, it's just about the passion for it. As I'm talking to you, I'm up pacing around. You know, this topic really gets me going too. But the Player Development Award, you know, that's a thing that you never, ever start out to win awards. That's not why you do what you do, but you to be recognized by your peers for the things that you're doing is just a tremendous, wonderful honor.
That's awesome.
Well deserved. Yeah, well deserved. Let me just ask one other question, because we're getting close to our time. Because and again, I hate to keep using this phrase, but you know, Cindy and I, we've talked about a lot of different things on this show, and one thing we talked about a long time ago, and I think this would be really something that would help. I would like to see golf embrace, particularly because you know, we want to target obviously the next generation of golfers. I would like to see some sort of an ambassador to the game. I mean, years ago we had you know, some great women who were not necessarily in the golf industry, but were just very strong, very captivating women who had, you know, great careers in other areas, but were passionate about golf. I would love to see some sort of golf ambassador for women, who not necessarily has to be in the golf industry, but just somebody who's passionate about the game, really get out there and promote it. Somebody that, you know, a lot of women can identify with, that would respect and appreciate. And I'm trying to think, and I can't even think of who I'm talking about. Cindy, we talked about this several years ago. Dinah Shore is who I'm thinking about. You know, she was a great ambassador for the game. You know, obviously had a tournament that, you know, took her name, but she was just somebody who just loved golf, and people could identify with her even though she was a celebrity. What do you think about something like that, Marvol? What do you think about having somebody really identify golf to those next generations, that they can look up to and say, you know what, hey, that she's, you know, it's cool what she's doing? What do you think about something like that?
Yeah, I think that's just a great idea. I just wrote that down because, you know, I think that catches everybody then. That's not just so specifically focused on a market. It's everybody. You know, there are women, two that come to my mind right now. Celine Dion is a great, I guess she just loves golf, and I wish we had some sort of connection with her. I got to find out who teaches her. And then Condoleezza Rice is also big golfer and very visible person. But I think we need somebody kind of in the middle of that. You know, when you think about Dinah Shore, she universally appealed to everybody. And I'm going to get on that. Cindy? You and I, we're committed to. Let's make this happen because I think that's a tremendous
I totally
idea.
agree. Great idea, Ted. We're on it.
We're on it.
And I'm trying to. There was another young, well, I shouldn't say young, but a woman that was in the soaps. Short. Who's the one? You know, Cindy, who I'm talking about. Had long brunette hair, loves golf, and I'm trying to think. She was in one of the daytime soaps. Big golf fan. I can't think. Susan Lucci. Who was?
She passed away.
Yeah. Did you? Oh, okay. Well, I guess we can't. I can't. Guess we can't do that. But I didn't. No, I don't think she did. But anyways, but somebody like that. That's what I'm talking about. Somebody that identifies, again, outside of the golf industry. And I know there are a lot of great women ambassadors. I mean, you mentioned, Marilyn Smith and obviously Shirley Spork and, the Nancy Lopez and Annika Sorenstam. There's a lot of great women in golf, but they're all in golf. And I think for people outside of the game to really identify it needs to be, in my opinion, it needs to be somebody outside of the golf arena that just loves and is passionate about the game and can really articulate why they love the game so much, even though they're not teaching and they're not out playing on tour. But what gets them out on the golf course each and every day, week, or whatever the case may be, that's the kind of person I think they need. But they have to have that charisma. And some of the ladies that you mentioned, Marvol, Celine Dion, someone like that, I think would be fantastic if that was able to happen.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on
that? I'm thinking about that right now, who that person would be, because I think in some ways, again, back to Dinah Shore, she was just universally loved, and of course we're living in a different time now than then, but I think that's just such a great idea. And in the LPGA, we have the honorary membership, and we've talked a couple of times about these particular women, but I think Cindy and I will we're going to talk about this because I think that's a brilliant idea. It catches everybody instead of specifically golfers,
Right. I mean, you had, obviously, there were celebrities. I mean, Bob Hope comes to mind on the men's side of things, but he crossed both barriers, but, he wasn't just limiting to the men's, but, and Jack Lemmon and a lot of big stars. And, Bob Hope really, talked about golf, and because of his humor and things like that, he was over there with the USO Tours and doing that sort of thing. And there's so many really, avenues that you can do. And I know, Marvol, what you said earlier, that you didn't want to, sort of branch out too far afield, that you want to keep your agenda, fairly regimented in maybe 2 or 3 points that you want to really focus through. Because I think if you get too many things, too many, pots in the fire, so to speak, then it's hard to get things done. But I just think, I don't know, I've just always thought, that was one of the things growing up as a young boy, seeing the Dinah Shore events every year and just seeing her. I mean, obviously she was a lovely woman in that and attractive to help too. But, she was just somebody that I always thought was very, very, interesting to talk about. And she just obviously had a passion for the game. And that's something that I think is really missing, is that sort of an ambassador for the game that can appeal to a broader spectrum of individuals, and again, not that the people in the industry aren't doing a fantastic job, but I think sometimes you have to step out of the industry in order to really be appreciated. Just some thoughts.
Yeah.
Cindy, any final thoughts? Yeah, any final thoughts, Cindy?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Well, Marvol, we want to thank you. We know it's early, and again, we appreciate you coming up. And again, congratulations on being the national president of the LPGA Teaching and Club Professionals. We know you're going to do a fantastic job, and I agree wholeheartedly. I think Cindy is a great ambassador herself of this game, both as a player and also as a teacher professional. And I like what you said earlier. I think it's about having fun and just, getting excited about, doing what we do. I think if you're passionate about what you do, I think you're going to do a fantastic job no matter what it may be. And we wish you all the success on your first term. And we would love to have you back anytime. If there's things that you want to discuss that we can help get out there to the listeners, we'd be more than happy to accommodate you. So we would love to have you back in the future.
Thank you. This was wonderful. I really appreciate the invitation.
Thank you so much.
Perfect. All right. You have a great day. And And thank you for joining us, Marvol, again on the Women of Golf.
Thank you so much.
Great
All right,
day.
bye-bye. All right, Cindy. Great guest. Very interesting. Obviously has a lot of passion, as you said. You can definitely hear it in her voice. And I think she's going to be a great, president of the Teaching and Club Professionals division. And I see that you're spinning another plate. You're adding something else to your repertoire, being on some of the committees and stuff like that. So, but what a great, what a great thing for you to do, obviously, to give back to the game that obviously has given you a lot over the years. So you're going to have a tough time squeezing all of it in, but you managed to do it very, very eloquently. So congratulations on helping to grow the game.
Well, thank you. That's what we do.
That's right. Well, again, we want to thank our very special guests this morning, Kelly Tan, winner on the Symetra Tour last week, and we're looking forward to next week's winner and another interesting guest. So on behalf of Cindy Miller and I, thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you next week on the Women of Golf. Thanks, Cindy.
Thanks, Ted. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening this morning to the Women of Golf Show. Tune in live each week by visiting blogtalkradio.com/Women of Golf or on any of these social media platforms: iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, CastBox, TalkStream Live, and of course Spotify. If you can't join us live, check out our on-demand section for previously aired broadcasts. To get updates for future shows and upcoming guests, you can follow us on Facebook at Women of Golf. You can also follow me on Twitter at Ted and Buck CEO and Cindy at Cindy Miller Golf. Please remember to join us next week on the Women of Golf Show. See you next time. This has been a production of the iGolf Sports Network.